Is Washington back on the rise in the Big Ten after a 6-7 season? That's Roman Tomashoff of Locked On Huskies joining me here to discuss. Roman, there are plenty of things to like. Top 25 transfer portal class, bowl eligible in the first season with a massive reset from the year prior when they were the national runners-up. You've got a young up-and-coming quarterback in Damon Williams. He's going to have some weapons. I think there are things to like, but how aware should Big Ten fan bases be about what Washington could be in 2025?
Oh, Spencer, they should be extremely aware of what Washington brings to the table.
And extremely aware, not just mildly aware, everyone. Extremely aware.
I'll give you a couple reasons why. First reason is DeBron Williams. Shout out to Damon Williams Sr., who has tried to. Damon's a huge LeBron fan, so that's its own thing. But I needed to make sure I got that out to a larger audience. Damon Williams is so much fun to watch, an electric playmaker. Anybody who watched the Sun Bowl saw that. 374 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, adds 48 yards and another touchdown on the ground behind a patchwork offensive line. Watching him throw the football is so exciting, Spencer. He's got so much zip to all 3 levels of the field. He can make every throw. That part in and of itself as a sophomore quarterback is going to be a lot of fun to watch, but he's got a couple of guys who are going to be very, very high on NFL draft boards in 2026. The first one, I would just say college football fans know him pretty well at this point. That's Jonah Coleman. Bringing him back for his senior season is going to be massive. We're going to see a lot more read option stuff from this Washington offense, which is going to be a lot of fun. The second one is a guy who is really ready to explode in 2025. That's wide receiver Denzel Boston. Bringing him back as a premier A1 target is absolutely huge for this defense. And Spencer, to be completely honest, I think they have the best cornerback in America, and that's Dekario Davis. Getting him out of the transfer portal, man, that guy would have been a first-round pick in this draft with this corner class of Travis Hunter, Ben Morrison, Will Johnson. Like, that's just the level of play Dekario Davis has. Getting him where he was a little down in 2024. There's no mistaking that. But bringing him back with cornerbacks coach John Richardson, who helped him play at that elite level in 2023, I couldn't be more excited about those guys in particular, just to start us off.
I think the guys that make me turn my head the most are certainly Williams, not just what he did in the Sun Bowl, but in the game prior against Oregon. I know it was a blowout loss because the rest of Washington's roster was outmatched, but Damon Williams put on one of the best passing performances that Oregon allowed at Autzen Stadium all year. Like, if you rank quarterback performances at Autzen Stadium from the 2024 season, it's Will Howard number 1. It's probably Damon Williams number 2. He completed 17 of 20 passes, did not throw an interception, and he was sacked 10 times while doing it. I'm with you that his potential.
Can I interject for 1 second? Because I'm ashamed of myself for not bringing this up a little bit earlier. Do you know off the top of your head what his completion percentage was in the Sun Bowl?
I believe it was 83%.
81%, but yeah,
81%.
It's not.
I'm shockingly good sometimes.
Yes, you are. This is why you do this show. But it's not. Again, it's not just the arm talent; it's the accuracy as well. I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, yeah, and I like Boston as well. I think he's got all the potential to emerge as a go-to guy for this Huskies offense. I've been a big Jonah Coleman fan for the last couple of years in college football, but you can't talk about Washington going into next season, Roman, without bringing up the change at defensive coordinator. You lose Steve Belichick, who you liked coming into last season and all throughout the year. I think he mostly did a really good job. He goes to North Carolina to coach with Dad. That's not that big of a surprise. I love the hire of Ryan Walters from Purdue, the former head coach. I think if you had ranked at that time when he was brought on board the top 5 to 10 defensive coordinator candidates available, I can't see him being outside the top 10. He probably wouldn't have been outside the top 5. I think this has been a really under the radar staff move and a really, really good hire.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Even like I'll take it a step further. I don't know if he falls outside the top 3. Like, you look at his last year at Illinois, what that defense was before he moved into a head coaching role, just absolutely tremendous. Number 1 in scoring, number 3 overall in total defense. Like, that was a truly elite defense. He did a great job developing some of the talent there. But Spencer, the biggest question when it comes to what Washington's defense is going to be under him is what the front 7 is going to look like. You're losing 10 of your 12 leading tacklers from the roster, not just, from the front 7, from the roster as a whole. But they went out and they did a fantastic job addressing it. I think one of the most underrated transfer portal acquisitions is defensive tackle Simone Peppa, who's coming over from Utah after spending 4 years in Kyle Whittingham's system. I would take any defensive tackle that played that kind. Yeah, he's got some injury questions, which is why he's probably going to be a little bit lower, in terms of the rankings. But if he's healthy, he's in a solid rotation. I love what he brings to the table. And then in terms of on threes rankings, you added 3 of the top 20 linebackers available in the country. That's X3 Alexander from Central Florida. That's Jacob Manu from Arizona, who's probably going to redshirt because he's still dealing with an injury. And that's also Buda Al-Ukta from Washington State. And that guy is somebody who's always around the ball, always making plays. And in this Walters front, where you're going to see a lot of 5-down linemen, or a lot of 3 defensive linemen and 2 outside linebackers in a kind of bare front sort of look, you're only going to see 1 inside linebacker on the field a lot of the times. But the guys they brought in to replace, some stalwarts in the program, in Carson Bruner and Alfonso Tupatala, and a guy who everyone was really excited about in Kamori House, I don't think they could have done a better job. I think you could have done a little more on the defensive line, but in terms of the guys they brought in, Tai Uyunglele from Arizona is another one that I really like. I think they did a really good job making sure that it's ready for the Big Ten in 2025.
Is that Uyunglele name of the Uyunglele names in college football we've already come to know for the last, half decade plus?
Yeah, it's, cousin, I believe.
Cousin. Okay, so good to know that legacy will just continue in college football forever until the end of time. And
only 1 year, though. He's only got 1 year left.
Well, I'm sure that Mateo and DJ have other cousins out there who can play football. But the question I have about Washington, Roman, is what do you define as success going into next year? They were one of the few teams. There were actually several teams whose record I predicted exactly right coming into the season. I didn't have every game right, but I had Washington at 6-6. They went 6-6 in the regular season. That's kind of where you and I discussed this team going into last year as, hey, that'd be a solid year. Like with the amount that was lost and what you're replacing, all the turnover and such, making a bowl game, that'd be a pretty solid season. You did that, made a bowl game, got the quarterback of the future, some real experience and playing time to load up for this year. So now, as the offseason currently stands, there's still another transfer portal window, and we'll see how spring ball shakes out and what stories emerge from there coming out of Seattle. But what do you look at as, a reasonable expectation of success for Washington?
First of all, flex on all those records you predicted exactly right.
I'd have to count. There were less than 10, but more than 5.
Respect. I'll give you that. I will say, if not for self-inflicted wounds in the Washington State and Rutgers game, I would have gotten exactly right at 8-4, which is unfortunate, but a story for a different day. But the reason
that just means we've established who the real Huskies football expert is between the two of us here. That's all I heard.
Yeah, let's go with that for the time being.
I agree.
But I say 8-4 because right now I'm in the 8-4, 9-3 camp. I think the schedule is a lot more favorable than it is last year, where the 3 toughest games on the schedule right now, in my opinion, Ohio State, Oregon, Illinois. All those teams are coming to Husky Stadium. You've got a couple of tough road trips. You go to the Big House, you got to go to Camp Randall, and you got to go to College Park in Maryland. But I look at that and I say, all right, that's not nearly as tough as having to go to Iowa last year with an offensive line that was still, patchwork, going to Indiana, and what that turned out to be. Well, that was, Spencer, you and I were sitting here at this time last year, not expecting that. And then on top of that, you go to the whiteout, you go to Oregon. Like that was a really, really tough slate of road games.
That's 3 playoff teams that you had to play on the road.
Yeah, exactly. That's not, if there are 2-3 playoff teams from this next year, they're going to be at home. So that's going to look a little bit different, but I look at the upgrades that this team has made in every facet, where you got a couple of really nice high-end upgrades, and then you got a lot of guys that are just, okay, you need somebody to do a job, you need to do it for 1 year, well, you get to guys on the roster that you really like. I'm really happy with how Jedd Fisch and this coaching staff have utilized the transfer portal. And right now I'm in the camp of 8-4, 9-3. I think that there's an opportunity to take a really big step forward. And a lot of that is because you have a really promising quarterback in Demond Williams.
Roman Tomashoff, Locked On Huskies. Great as always, my man. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.